So this is my favorite size group to talk to because we can make it a conversation. So if you guys have questions, raise a hand. Have whoever the mic runner is come bring you a mic. I'd much prefer it to be that way than just me talking. No slides, so exciting news. So the first thing I want to talk about, I know a lot of the folks here are in the federal space. The state of Maryland has some very interesting challenges. I think a lot of states do relative to the way that cybersecurity works. Federal government has a set of policies, NIST 853R4, FIPS 199 that define how to do everything. The states don't really have that. So we've had to come up with that on our own, and it's created some interesting challenges for us. One of those challenges is that we don't have the maturity that the federal government has. So we've had to kind of figure it out on our own. And with every new CISO and every new CIO that comes in, we wind up having to recreate the wheel. And this creates a lot of churn for us. So in the past 6 years, we've had 3 complete rewrites of the state information security policies, which has yielded a lot of new tools, new purchases. Things don't get fully implemented. We've been doing a lot of work to try and fix that. So one of the things that we've done this year is we've partnered with the National Governors Association to make a substantial improvement to the policy set. So we said, hey, we're not going to change it anymore. We're going to start using that policy set to enhance and drive that change. We expect that to occur over the next couple of months. And that should result in maybe a more comprehensive policy set that other states can use as a foundation for their own. So that's one of the big activities that we're doing for the state. Another thing that we're making a big push on is to try and improve the overall posture of the state. So we have 3 main initiatives we're working on right now to try and make massive improvements in the posture. The first is a big push for security awareness and training. So Maryland government passed into law last year a requirement that any employees with access to sensitive data, PII, PHI, FTI, are mandated by law to go through security awareness and training once a year. So we've gone above and beyond on that. We now have security awareness and training for 100% of state employees and contractors with access to sensitive information, and those that don't as well, and we do that monthly. So that's a big shift for the state. So you're talking, in totality, about 75,000 users have come into these platforms. And we've seen results from that. Click-through rates for phishing have gone down. The number of bad clicks has gone down. Account compromises have gone down. The next big push we're doing is vulnerability management. So we've deployed vulnerability management across, at this point, nearly 50% of the executive branch machines. So this coming from a time 6 years ago when a single vulnerability scan had not been run. So there's a massive, massive improvement for it. And we'll continue to grow that program. We've actually shifted one of our forums. The forum that was previously vulnerability management or patch management has turned into vulnerability management because now we've used the tools to mature the systems to the point where now we're worried about registry settings and other lower risk vulnerabilities. The third thing is boundary protection. So when we look at the things that have happened in the state over the past, call it 10 years, things that weren't result of old vulnerabilities or users doing silly things are firewalls that just have ports open that they shouldn't, so you can RDP to a server on the inside. You can access systems that maybe shouldn't. Web application firewalls that are just wide open. So we've done a lot to improve that posture as well. And for us, that's resulted in a much, much lower incident of bad things happening. Instead of having, I think when we started this effort, somewhere near 300 exposed RDP servers. As of this week, we're at 0 for those agencies that are in the executive branch that we manage. And that's a big deal, right? Because these systems aren't meant to be exposed that way. The last thing that we've spent a lot of energy doing is working on supply chain management. So has anybody here heard of SOC? Nobody? Okay. So SOC 2 is it's a standard created by the American Association of Certified Public Accountants. It's a technical standard similar to ISO 27001. The goal of it is to provide a framework for organizations to manage how they're doing things in a secure fashion. So you go down the list of things that it provides. It provides assurance for the security of systems, for the confidentiality of the data, for the privacy of data collected, for the processing integrity of any transactions that the system processes, and for the availability of the systems and the data. So as of, I think, June of last year, we now have written into every contract for professional services a requirement that vendors have either a SOC 2 or similar attestation provided by a third party that demonstrates that they're taking the appropriate steps to manage risk, to ensure that we're doing the things we need to do to protect that data. So any questions about any of this? Well. All right, sir.
So what's been the biggest challenge for you in actually educating the entirety of the state employed workforce?
I'm sorry, say it again?
The biggest challenge in actually getting all the employees to go through the cybersecurity training. You said you've had a lot of success with it, but what are the challenges in actually getting everyone to attend and not just, I guess, cheat off their coworkers mostly?
So there's a couple of things. That's a great question. So we do the campaigns via email, so it's electronic right now. So they get an email. It's annoying. If you don't do it after the first 7 days, it starts letting you know every 4 days. After 2 of those, it's every 2 days. And then management starts getting involved. So we have escalations in place to ensure that that gets pushed out. Additionally, there's another Maryland law that requires all employees every 6 months after they start and every 24 months thereafter to attend in-person sexual harassment training. So we've worked with the Equal Employment Commission, the folks that manage that, to say, hey, can we tack on 30 minutes at the end of that? They do a 2-hour session. So can we tack on 30 minutes at the end? You already have everybody there. Every employee is required to attend this. Do a little security awareness and training in person, where we can have interactive sessions, where we can talk to people and really delve into the tactical stuff. It's different sessions for managers than it is for employees, which means we have different groups, and you can tailor that training. And you can also tailor the training to current threats. So you can talk about the things that are this week and last week, not just the broad videos, don't click on weird links. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
I understand that kind of user awareness is the major problem for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So with this initiative that you put into place, I was just curious about the implementation.
So how are we doing it?
I guess kind of what scenarios? So is it simply informational, or is it actually hands-on?
Yeah.
Do you constantly actually use phishing tests, sorts of things like that?
So we do phishing tests. We also do assessments. So the platform that we use is called Infosec Iq. So what we've started to do now, so it was initially for the first 12 months just training. So just let us give you information starting in Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So this month it included an assessment after the training. So it's a broad assessment, right? How are we doing to manage the effectiveness of the training? Because just having people click through videos you're not going to get a good feel, right? So this will help us identify, are we having folks actually learn? Are they getting it? If they're not, what do we need to change? If we're not getting the results we expect, how do we tweak that campaign, or how do we tweak the training? Do we need to do different things to be effective? Because, really and truly, the law requires that in Maryland, the law requires that users attend training. It doesn't say it has to be effective. It doesn't, you can do a 38-second training, and that checks the box. But, I get fired if all we do is check the box, right? We need to actually get the result, which is have users be more aware, have the users be able to handle that situation. Where I worked previously, there's a story I share about this. So we had one user who was legitimately the least cyber-aware user I think I've ever worked with. Any email, if you got an email that said, this is a phishing email, don't click on this link, he would click on the link. It was just, and that's, hey, it's a link, I'm supposed to click on links. So we worked with him individually, right? So he's like, hey, I don't know what I need to do. I said, hey, let me tell you what. I'm going to open up the full suite of training videos, go through them whenever you want. So he went through them. He actually started to do better. So then he got an email. And it was an email from a person he was expecting an email from, relevant to his job functions. It was in accounting, so it was a request to transfer funds. The email looked right, said, hey, we didn't receive your last payment because it went to the wrong account. Please transfer these funds plus next month's funds into this account, because the person who had hacked the individual's email that sent the email went through and actually found stuff that was relevant. So he said, hey, you know what? This doesn't look right. Right? So this is a very, very sophisticated attacker. He said, this doesn't look right. So the first thing he does, he comes over to me and says, you almost got me with this one. I said, which one? So he shows me the email. I said, dude, did you do anything with this? This is real. This is real stuff. So you talk about actual results. That's real impact. It's financial impact. It was a couple $100,000, right? It wouldn't have been the end of the world. But still, right, that's real money. So anyway, I don't know if that gets to the, yeah. So anyway, hey, Rozzy.
A question for you. So we were talking earlier about, earlier in the sessions we were talking about the localities and things like that, working with them. Obviously, Maryland's doing a great job with the agencies that you support, but is there any talk in legislation, governor's office, of being able to extend your coverage to the localities, either for preventative or post-incident, where now you can actually, extend what you're doing, not just to the state employees, but with so many localities, counties, and cities throughout the state of Maryland?
Any city in particular you're thinking about? So, we have Baltimore City, right? So Baltimore had a pretty horrific incident in May of this year. For those that don't know, had some unexposed or unprotected servers exposed to the internet. Just a failing of a couple of different systems that led to ransomware just destroying their environment. So one of the first things they did was reach out to us, and we've been working in partnership with them. So we have a team deployed on site still with them, trying to help bolster them and help collaborate with them to grow them. We're actually working with them to start pulling them into some of our tools, because when you talk about the economies of scale, right? Baltimore City has 10,000 employees. They probably don't need a guy that's an expert in vulnerability management. They probably don't need a girl that's a firewall expert. They won't be able to retain them, right? There's not enough work. So we're trying to use the economies of scale through that government relationship to offer services to the counties, to the municipalities, to the cities, to help bolster them and grow them, because that's really and truly, if we do the best job protecting state data and the cities and counties have access to the same data, we haven't done our job, right? So that's a big part of what we're doing now, is collaborating with those folks to bring them into the tools to get the economy of scale and the economy of expertise to be able to deliver the highest quality services for far less than they would be able to achieve individually.
Has that extended to other entities across Maryland to say, hey, help us as well before we get hit?
What type of entities are you talking about? So,
counties and city governments?
So we're currently working with a handful of counties on things like vulnerability management. That seems to be one of the big ones that I think folks just don't have the in-house expertise to run. So running a vulnerability management platform isn't easy to do, right? It's a lot of understanding how all the pieces come together, integrating it with the SIM, doing all those pieces together. It's a lot, right? And if you know how to do it, it's super simple, right? It's very easy. So we're working with a couple of the counties on that right now, in addition to Baltimore City, where, excuse me, where it could be anything from just leveraging our licensing costs all the way up to having us fully manage their solution. Is that answering the question here?
Yeah, it did. I just, municipalities across the country are getting hit with this.
Yeah.
Small towns don't have resources, like you alluded to, even for Baltimore. Is the state kind of being a shared service provider to help address that is really kind of what I was,
Okay, so that's good clarification. So Maryland Department of IT has the ability to provide services to municipalities. So through the program called Network Maryland, which is a big service provider network, we provide connectivity to all of the counties, Baltimore City, and I believe almost all of the municipalities and localities in the state. Once they're on that network, they have full access to everything in there. So any of the services in that ecosystem, through what we call SWIGI, which is the statewide government intranet, they have full access to all of those tools. So if they said, hey, we just got connected to SWIGI, can we get vulnerability management? Sure. How long does it take? How long does it take you to deploy this agent to your 7 workstations? Here's the command to run. How soon do we see results? Time to value is measured in hours to days. So that's a big push as well, because you're absolutely right. We have towns that have 5 employees, right? 4 employees. They don't have a dedicated firewall guy. They rely on some MSP. And this is where that supply chain risk comes in. I think supply chain for federal government is a little bit different, right? So supply chain for federal government, there's especially defense space, you're worried about somebody modifying hardware or doing some other very, very sophisticated attack. For counties, we're worried about the managed service provider like the folks in Texas had, where the MSP is the vector by which some terrible thing happens, either data exfiltration, ransomware being pushed, backups not being performed properly, so being unable to recover in the event of something bad happening. All of that's kind of the risk that we see, which is why we're doing all those things simultaneously.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other folks have any questions, thoughts about Maryland? Hey, Matt, what's up?
I think one of the questions that came up earlier was kind of the states and municipalities' ability to go after federal funding. I know that you were involved with the MD Think program and pulling a lot of federal funding there. Do you see the ability to do that moving forward, with some of the projects you're looking at doing now?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that. So I think that would fall more towards some of our other folks that are spending energy building out hey, how do we get federal funding? How do we collaborate? I know there have been a couple of bills that I've come across where we've seen them and go, hey, is that an opportunity for us to get in? But they're. Are they? Okay. So, any other questions, or do you guys want to get 6 minutes and 47 seconds back? All right. Well, thank you.